Hello and welcome back to Pass the Turn. This is a deep dive of one of the new Ikoria Commander decks. I've bought 3 of them. I've bought the Arcane Maelstrom, I've bought the Symbiotic Swarm, and I've also bought the Enhanced Evolution, and that's what I'm going to be talking with yourselves about today. So, Enhanced Evolution is a Sultai coloured commander deck, and the primary commander is Otrimi, the Ever Playful. So before we go into that, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that little bell notification if you want to be notified of any future videos here at Pass the Turn. We do Magic the Gathering, board games, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, all that stuff is going to be coming if it's not on the channel already. Make sure you hit that little bell notification and you'll be notified. So this is a Commander product, and it came out with a set. So the Commander product this year is all about Ikoria, all about the theme of Ikoria. And Otrimi, the Ever Playful, is one of those commanders, and it's all based on Mutate abilities. It does have secondary commanders as well, but we'll get into those as and when we discuss them on the creature list. So, Otrimi, the Ever Playful, is a legendary creature, Nightmare Beast. There's a lot of nightmares in this set, so Nightmare Tribal could be a thing in the future. Otrimi the Ever Playful, Sultai, 3 black, green, blue to cast him for his normal cost. And he's a 6/6 trample. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, return type creature card with Mutate from your graveyard to your hand. So as you can expect, there's going to have a lot of Mutate creatures in this deck, and Mutate means you can play the card with Mutate onto another creature over or under it. Go and have a look at Wizard's explanation of the Mutate ruling for its Mutate cost. So most of the time you want to be mutating Otrimi onto other creatures that you have in play, and his Mutate cost is 1 generic, black, green, blue. So you want to be mutating Otrimi onto all of the other creatures that feature onto this deck, because he will just become an absolute mammoth of a creature with loads of awesome abilities that will keep recurring creatures that die with Mutate back into your hand. So fantastic card, cannot wait to use it, and really excited about the Mutate mechanic. So Otrimi is the commander. So we're going to go through the creatures of the deck first of all, because there's a lot of creatures in this deck that Otrimi can mutate onto and get all the abilities of. So it's very creature heavy, and definitely my style of play. Sultai as well, one of my favourite colours. I've actually got 2 decks already that are Sultai, so this will be the 3rd, potentially the 4th, because there could be another commander in here which I want to build a separate deck around, but I'll get to that as we find it. So before we get into the creatures, let me just have a swig of Bud. I hope everyone is doing well in isolation. I'm going to have a Bourbon as well. Nice healthy diet. So the creatures in the deck. We're going to go through the creatures one by one and discuss their synergies with Otrimi himself. So the first one is Archipelago. Of course it would be. I'm a massive fan of Leviathans, Krakens, Octopuses and Serpents, as you know if you've watched the channel. So Archipelago is a creature Leviathan, costs 7 mana, 2 blue and 5 others. 7/7 Leviathan, sounds about right. And a mutate cost of 1 blue and 5 others. So if you mutate this onto something else, it's going to cost you 1 less, which is good to know. Whenever this creature mutates, tap up to X target creatures, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. So this Archipelago basically does a Lothros on someone and taps their permanents down, or taps their creatures down, and they don't untap. So that's really useful, especially if you've mutated the creature that you're mutating onto multiple times. You're going to be able to tap multiple creatures down, which could potentially give you a massive opening to swing with this huge Leviathan mutated beast. So again, great card for getting through. Next card is Auspicious Sterics, an elk beast. I had an elk burger recently when I went to Finland. That was lovely. Auspicious Sterics costs 1 green and 4 others for an elk beast, 6/6, and it can mutate for an extra mana, so this costs 6 mana in total to mutate, 1 green and 5 others. When this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile X permanent cards, where X is the number of times this creature has mutated. Put those permanent cards onto the battlefield. So this is like a mini Genesis wave for how many times your creatures have mutated. So if you've got a huge beast that's mutated loads and loads and loads of times, you're going to get an awesome Genesis wave effect off of this sterics, which could then put loads of other big creatures into play, which could then be mutated onto further. So again, an awesome card, auspicious sterics, and it's good. It's a good thing to have a creature, a 6/6 creature with a potentially a recurable Genesis wave ability on there, because whenever you mutate, those mutate triggers will stack every single time. So it's going to be pretty good. Next card is a nice little green classic, Beech Whisperer. 2/3 Elf Druid, costs 2 generic and 2 green. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. And that is fantastic because you're going to be casting a lot of creatures in this deck, whether they're mutated creatures or normal vanilla creatures. You're going to get a card every time you do that, so a good card draw spell in the deck. Next creature is called Boneyard Lurker. So this is a 4/4 creature, Nightmare Beast, costs 2 generic and black green, and it has a mutate cost of 2 generic and black green hybrid. Whenever this creature mutates, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So again, an awesome way of recurring stuff from your grave back to your hand constantly if you keep mutating the same creature. So again, that effect, that recursion effect, is always welcome in any sort of deck where your things might die. So that's Boneyard Lurker. Then we have Boneyard Drax, a creature fungus. So this costs 2 generic and 1 black. Boneyard Drax's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards or other creature cards in your graveyard. So if you've got a lot of stuff in your grave, this could potentially be a massive creature. I'm not sure whether this will be in the deck when I do some upgrades. It does have a scavenge ability on there as well, but I don't think I want to have many creatures in the grave, so I'm not sure whether that will be useful or not. But Boneyard Drax could be utilised in other decks potentially. Next card is one of the favourites and one of the most talked about in the set at the moment, just because of its sheer hilarity, and that is Capricopian. It's a goat Hydra. It costs 1 green and X. So it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, so you pay as much mana as you want to make it power and toughness equal to the amount of mana paid, basically. And then you can pay 2. Activated ability, put a +1/+1 counter on Capricopian. Then you may reselect which player Capricopian is attacking. Only the player Capricopian is attacking may activate this ability, and only during the declare attack as a step. So it's quite a mouthful to understand, but it is very, very easy. So whoever Capricopian is attacking, they can pay 2, they can put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then they can declare it attacking somebody else instead. So it becomes like a little bit of a mini game as to who the Goat Hydra is charging at this turn. So very, very interesting card, and it's gonna see some awesome shenanigans going on with that, and it's just going to be an absolute menace. Just a Goat Hydra charging at you every turn. Do you have enough mana to reselect its target? We will see. Next creature is Cavern Whisperer. This is a nightmare, yet again. So it costs 4 generic and 1 black for a 4/4 nightmare. Its mutate cost is 1 less. It's 1 black and 3 others. It's a 4/4 menace. When this creature mutates, each opponent discards a card. So a nice little 4/4 menace, so a good little keyword there. It can mutate onto something, cause everyone to discard cards, and every time you stack a mutated creature again onto this, each opponent is going to discard another card. So that's a way of messing with your opponent's strategy, which I'm always welcome to. Cavern Whisperer. The next creature is Castleruthless Stalker. So this is a legendary creature that you can use as your commander if you wanted to, because it partners with Ukima, the Stalking Shadow, which we'll get to in a moment. So Castleruthless Stalker costs 3 generic and 1 green for a legendary human warrior. Partner with Ukima, the Stalking Shadow, so I'll flash them both up now. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. So that's what the Kaz Order does. So whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, it gets a +1/+1 counter, which is nice. And Ukima, the Stalking Shadow, is a whale wolf, so an awesome design. Costs 1 generic and Dimir, so blue-black, for a legendary creature whale wolf. Partners with Kazur, the Ruthless Stalker, which I've just talked about. And this creature cannot be blocked, so it's a 2/2, cannot be blocked at all. So as long as Kazur is out, this will get a +1/+1 counter every time it attacks, because it can't be blocked at all by anything. And this is an awesome card for ninjas. One of my friends, Troy, which you would have seen on the channel, is going to be using this as a creature in his Yuriko deck, because whenever Ukima leaves the battlefield, doesn't have to die, but whenever it leaves, so whenever it's ninjutsu'd out or returned to the hand or what have you, it deals X damage to target player, and you gain X life, where X is Ukima's power. So not only is Ukima going to be getting bigger every turn, but whenever it leaves the battlefield, whether it dies, exiles, returns to hand, returns to whenever it leaves, whenever it goes to command zone, I was going to say, it deals X damage, target player, and you gain X life. So it's a good way of draining someone else and gaining some life back. So great combination, those two. They could be the commanders if you wanted to, right out of the box. Next card is Chitering Harvester. So this is again another nightmare. 4/6 for a creature nightmare, costs 5 generic and 1 black, but it can be mutated for 4 generic and 1 black. Whenever this creature mutates, each opponent sacrifices a creature, so that's awesome. Another way of removing problematic threats. I know the opponent has to sacrifice a creature of their choice, but again, it's one of those effects that targets the opponent. The opponent has to sacrifice that creature, so it gets round hexproof, indestructible, can't be targeted, all of that sort of stuff that's normally hard to get rid of. Sacrificial means are an awesome way of dealing with that. So great card, and again, it triggers whenever it mutates, which is fantastic. Next card, I believe, is a reprint, Cold-Eyed Selkie. This costs 1 generic and green-blue hybrid for a creature merfolk rogue with Island Walk. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. That is the key part of this text, that many cards. So if you mutated something on top of this, let's just say you mutated Otrimi on top of this, and you kept all of Otrimi's stats, this would be an Otrimi the Ever Playful 6/6, Island Walk, Trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw that many cards. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, return a creature card with Mutate from your graveyard to your hand. You can see how these things will get out of hand. No pun intended. Cold-Eyed Selkie, a great card to mutate onto. Next one, Dreamtail Heron, is a elemental bird. Costs 4 generic and 1 blue, or a mutate cost of 3 generic and 1 blue. It's a 3/4 flyer. Whenever it mutates, draw a card. So again, another great card to mutate onto, because it will draw you a card, and then whenever you mutate again onto it, another card gets drawn, another card gets drawn. So another really good addition. 3/4 flying as well, if you want to mutate on something weaker, like Cold-Eyed Selkie. Next card is a form of ramp, Fertility. This is a elemental, another reprint I believe. Costs 2 generic and 1 green, and enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and has an activated ability of play 1 and a green, remove a counter from it. Target player searches their library for a basic land and puts it onto the battlefield tapped. So again, a nice little way of ramping, but you can also use it as a political tool, because you can say, I'm going to ramp you over there because you haven't hit your land drop. I'm going to ramp you, don't attack me. So again, a nice little card, can be used for ramping yourself or others. Next card is a huge Hydra, Genesis Hydra. Costs 2 green and X, and it's a plant Hydra. When you cast Genesis Hydra, reveal the top X cards of your library. You may put a non-land permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle the rest into your library. So this is like a one-off big Genesis wave. So you get a selection of different permanents, and based on the mana cost that you pump into this, you can choose one of those with converted mana cost X or less and get that into play. So again, a nice little way of not only paying a huge Hydra for the mana that you pump into it, but also getting a free card off of it as well. So Genesis Hydra is awesome. Next card is Glowstone Recluse. I think the only spider of the Ikoria set, which does surprise me because I thought there would be some spider hybrids, which I would have absolutely loved, by the way. So please, Wizards, make more spiders. That would be fantastic. Glowstone Recluse is a creature spider, 2/3, costs 2 generic and 1 green, but a mutate cost is 3 generic and 1 green. It's a 2/3 with reach, and whenever this creature mutates, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So that's really, really good. It provides a creature with reach. If you want to mutate this on top or below, that creature that you're mutating into will gain reach, and whenever it mutates, you get +2/+2 counters. Well, 2 +1/+1 counters. So it's going to be constantly giving it a buff and being able to allow it to block flying threats. So very, very good. Next card, another Hydra, Hero's Bane. This is a creature Hydra, costs 3 generic and 2 green. Enters the battlefield with 4 +1/+1 counters on it, so it's a 4/4 when it comes in, but it does have an activated ability. Pay 2 generic and 2 green, puts X +1/+1 counters on Hero's Bane, where X is its power. So that's awesome, because obviously mutated creatures gain the abilities of everything underneath it, or on top of it, or what have you, whatever you want to visualize. So you could, again, mutate Otrimi onto this. So Otrimi would then be a 6/6 with put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. So you could put 6 +1/+1 counters on it because it will have 6 power when it comes in. So again, this thing could get out of hand because it's going to be doubling its counters every single turn if you've got the mana to sink. So again, great card. On the aspect of Hydras, we've got Hungering Hydra. A lot of Hydras in this deck, and you'll come to see potentially another Hydra commander as well when we get to it. So Hungering Hydra is a green, 1 green mana and X. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So the amount of mana you pay, that's its power and toughness, and it can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. So only 1 creature can block it, basically. It can't be blocked by more than 1. And whenever Hungering Hydra is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. It must survive the damage to get the counters. So let's just say I played this for 8 mana. I played green and 7. This comes in with 7 +1/+1 counters. And then I attack a 3/3. Let's say a Llanowar Tribe. They do 3 damage to the Hydra. He gets 3 +1/+1 counters, so he's now a 10/10, and he's eaten that Llanowar Tribe. So a fantastic card. As long as you can pay enough mana so it doesn't get killed, all the damage that's dealt to it will be added in the form of heads, I imagine, from a Hydra's perspective. Awesome card. A lot of Hydras in the deck. Next card is Illusionary Ambusher. So this is a cat illusion. Again, a lot of cats in Ikoria as well. So Arabo support massively. Illusionary Ambusher costs 4 generic and 1 blue. Cat illusion. It has flash and it's a 4/1. And whenever Illusionary Ambusher is dealt damage, draw that many cards. So it's an awesome card. Flashing it in to draw potentially loads of cards is an awesome draw spell, but not only that, you can play this as a normal creature and then mutate on top of it, because then whenever that mutated creature is dealt damage, draw that many cards is a fantastic ability to have on a bigger creature, because this is going to die. 4/1 flash, it's going to die. So you want to get it out there first, then mutate on top of that ability, because that is an awesome ability. Awesome card draw in this deck. Next is Insatiable Hemorrhage. Again, another nightmare. It costs 3 generic and 1 black. For a creature nightmare, the mutate costs 2 generic and 1 black. It's a 3/3 death touch, so a nice little keyword. And whenever this creature mutates, each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is a number of times this creature has mutated. So again, it's rewarding the people that are just stacking cards on top of one creature, just mutating it loads and loads and loads of times. And again, it's a good way of draining people, giving it the mutated creature death touch and you gaining loads of life from those drains. So awesome card. Next card is Masked Admirers. This is a elf shaman for 2 generic and 2 green. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Nice. And whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay 2 green. If you do, return Masked Admirers from your graveyard to your hand. So it's just a way of drawing lots of cards from returning it to your hand constantly by paying extra green when you pay creature spells. So I don't know whether it's going to stay in the deck when it's upgraded, but nevertheless an interesting card from Conspiracy, I believe, the first printing. But I could be wrong there. Next card is an awesome ramp spell, and that's Migratory Greathorn. So Migratory Greathorn is a 3/4 beast. It costs 3 generic and 1 green, and the mutate cost is 2 generic and 1 green. So the mutate cost is cheaper if you have that creature out that it can mutate onto. And whenever this creature mutates, search library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So every time this creature mutates, you get a basic land into battlefield tapped. So if you keep stacking creatures with mutate on top of this, you're going to get that land every single time it mutates. So again, a fantastic on-theme ramp spell for the Enhanced Evolution deck. Migratory Greathorn, awesome card. Next one we have Mind Leecher. Again, another new card. This is a nightmare, no surprise. It costs 4 generic and 2 black. For a creature nightmare, the mutate cost is 4 generic and a black, so it costs 1 black less. And it's a 5/5 flying nightmare. So nice little keyword, 5 power, 5 toughness. When this creature mutates, exile the top card of each opponent's library face down. You may look at that card and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. So you get like a Gonti Lord of Luxury effect, where you can exile people's stuff and then play them, but you can't spend mana as if it was any colour. But you can look at and play those cards for as long as they remained exiled. So you could play other people's lands, you can play anything. Yeah, you may look at and play those cards as long as they remain exiled. So that's a fantastic ability, especially because it's got a mutate trigger. So if you keep stacking things on the Mind Leecher, you're going to be able to play everyone else's decks. So great card, great addition, great design. Next card is a blue staple in Commander, and that is Mole Drifter. So this is a 2/2 creature elemental with flying, costs 4 generic and 1 blue. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 2 cards, and then you can evoke it for 2 generic and 1 blue. So when you evoke something, you cast it, and then it's sacrificed as it enters, so you get the enter the battlefield trigger. So it's a cool card. It's got flying. You know, I'm not sure whether it fits in this deck or not, but again, it's a good blue staple, Mole Drifter. An awesome card coming up next, a new one from Ikoria, is Pouncing Shore Shark. So this is a shark beast, costs 4 generic and 1 blue, and the mutate cost is 3 generic and 1 blue, so 1 less. And it's a 4/3 with flash, and whenever this creature mutates, you may return target creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand. So this is just a little bit of a menace. Whenever this creature mutates, return target creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand. So that's an awesome thing that you can stack on top of the shark as well, just making it that every time it mutates, return something to your hand, just being an absolute menace. Awesome inclusion in the deck, Pouncing Shore Shark. Next card is Predator Ooze. So this is a creature ooze, and it costs green to play, and it's indestructible. And whenever it attacks, you get a +1/+1 counter on it. And whenever it's dealt damage, whenever a creature dealt damage by Predator Ooze dies, you get a +1/+1 counter. So it comes in as a 1/1, but as soon as it starts racking up the kills, it's going to get more and more counters. But ideally what you want to do is mutate your commander onto this, because it will be given indestructible. So that's the main reason why it's in the deck. There needs to be more indestructible cards in the deck as well, because you want to be mutating onto those things if you can, or hexproof. But they're going to be added to the deck as time goes on. Hexproof and indestructible, some very, very good keywords. So Predator's in there for that reason. Next card is staple in green, Reclamation Sage. I won't go through much information on this. This is 2 generic, 1 green. When it enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. So it's just again another way of getting a body out on the field and destroying, removing a artifact or enchantment. Then we have an awesome inclusion. Again, new card, Sawtusk Demolisher. So this is a 6/6 beast creature that costs 4 generic and 2 green, or you can mutate it for 3 generic and 1 green. It's a 6/6 trample, so it has the keywords on there already. And whenever this creature mutates, destroy target non-creature permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast, so it beast within something every time it mutates, and that is horrendous. My co-host Josh, one of his all-time hated cards is Terastodon, and this basically does that. As long as it mutates, it destroys a target permanent, non-creature permanent, and it's awesome because you're going to be mutating a lot in this deck, and every time you get a mutate trigger, it's going to be destroying non-creature permanents, even lands. That's why he hates it so much, because it can destroy all of his 60 quid lands, whatever they are. Sawtusk Demolisher. Next in the list is Shriekmaw. This is a nice little black card. It costs 4 generic and 1 black, and it's a 3/2 elemental with fear. And then when it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. But of course, it can be evoked as well for 1 generic and 1 black. So again, like Muldrifter, I don't know whether this has a place in the deck. I mean, it has fear, so if you mutate on top, you know that mutated creature is going to get fear. But I don't know if it has a place in the deck or not. It's more of a Yarok card when it enters the battlefield, but we'll see. Next card is Silent Arbiter. Very interesting why this is included. This is an artifact creature construct, costs 4 generic mana, 4 colourless, and it says no more than 1 creature can attack each combat, no more than 1 creature can block each combat. So it does aid the fact that you're just going to be stacking a lot of cards on 1 creature. So you're potentially sort of playing a Voltron strategy. So this will work in tandem with that strategy, because you're going to have a huge, massive creature with loads of abilities. And Silent Arbiter makes it so that only 1 creature can attack, 1 creature can block. So fairly interesting card. I'm not sure whether it's going to stay in my edit of the deck, so stay tuned for that when I go through the upgrades that I'll do at another time. Next card is Souvenir Snatcher. So this is a new one, and this is a bird creature, so it costs 4 generic and 1 blue, and the mutate cost is slightly higher, 5 generic and 1 blue. It's a 4/4 flying bird, and whenever this creature mutates, gain control of target non-creature artifact. That's annoying. That's really annoying. Gain control of target non-creature artifacts. This can steal soul rings, this can steal swords, this can steal Bolas Citadel. I don't know how a Souvenir Snatcher snatches a Bolas' Citadel. It's awesome. It can steal any key piece artifact that your opponent's got. The Immortal Sun, it can steal that. What else can it steal? It can steal the Ozolith, you know, a new card that's been spawned in Ikoria. It can steal Mirari. It's just awesome. It can steal all those key artifacts. Can't steal Blightsteel Colossus or Darksteel Colossus, which is fair enough, because I don't think a bird would be able to lift up a Colossus of that stature. But gain control of target non-creature artifact is just as deadly, I believe. So that's a great inclusion to this deck, and it's a mutate card as well, so it fits in with the theme. So awesome job. Next card is Tidal Barracuda. So this is a 3 generic blue for a creature fish, and it says it's a 3/4, and any player may cast spells as though they had flash. So you may feel that that's not good, giving everyone a Vidalcan Orrery, which is, you know, a £26 card in the UK. However, it does say that your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So that's not too bad, because, you know, other players can wreak havoc on their turns, but they can't cast spells during my turn, or during your turn, depending on what tense you're thinking of right now. I'm talking trash. So yeah, it's good. It can increase shenanigans, but not so much on your turn. So you still feel safe on your turn, but you can still expect shenanigans on other players' turns. So again, it's just a bit of a enabler for not only yourself, but the other players to do some awesome things. Next card is Trumpeting Gnar. So this is a 3/3 creature beast. It costs 1 generic and Simic, so green-blue, and has a mutate cost of 3 generic, green-blue hybrid, green-blue hybrid. Whenever this creature mutates, create a 3/3 green beast creature token. So this is good because you play this down as a vanilla creature. So you pay it down for 1 generic and green-blue. You get a 3/3 creature, which is fine. But then whenever you mutate on top of it, your board state will increase because you're going to get beasts every time you mutate on top of the Trumpeting Gnar. So you don't really want to be playing it as a mutate creature. Well, you could if you had nothing else to do, but I'd probably play this as a 3-drop and then mutate on top of it, so I get the beasts rolling in every turn. Next card is Trigon Predator. This is a good one. So this is a 2/3 flying beast. It costs 1 generic and Simic, green-blue. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment that player controls. So a good way of dealing with problematic things. And again, if you mutate on top of this, it's going to give you all the abilities of what's underneath. So you're going to be becoming if you mutate Otrimi onto this, Otrimi is now a 6/6 flying trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact or enchantment and return target creature with mutate from your graveyard to your hand. So again, you can see how this deck just spirals out of control with all these abilities, and that's why I'm loving the mutate keyword and the rule set. So good job, Wizards. Next card is something I covered earlier, Ukima, the Stalking Shadow, partners with Castleruthless Stalker. Again, Ukima, Stalking Shadow, can't be blocked. It's a werewolf, and it costs 1 generic and Dimir, so black-blue. And whenever it leaves the battlefield, it deals X damage to our player, and you gain X life, where X is its power. So again, I covered that earlier, but again, awesome in this deck, and awesome in a ninjutsu deck as well, which you'll probably see at some point. Next card is Vastwood Hydra. So this is another Hydra. It costs green and X generic, and it enters the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters on it, the amount that you pay. And when Vastwood Hydra dies, you may distribute a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on Vastwood Hydra among any number of creatures you control. So this is great because it comes out as a massive creature, but then when it dies, you get to distribute all those counters among other creatures you control. So it buffs the entire team as well. So a nice little dual card with good purpose. Now, the next card is potentially one of my favourite cards and nostalgic cards of all time, and that is Vorapede, seeing a reprint here in Commander 2020. One of my favourite cards ever. I'm a bit disappointed because I did the Abzan video when I saw the Cathril Aspect Warper being spoiled. I thought that deck was going to be insect tribal, but it's not, so I'm quite disappointed about that. I still have bought the deck, but it's a shame there's not many insects or new insects in there. But this is one of my favourites of all time, Vorapede. It's probably not very good in the grand scheme of things anymore, but it was a beat stick back in the day, so one of my favourites. Good to see it in here, being reprinted in Ikoria. Just wish there was more big insects. Hopefully there's more to be spotted, we'll see. But Vorapede is a 5/4 creature, insect, costs 2 generic and 3 green. It's a vigilance, trample, undying. So loads of keywords, and vigilance and trample, again, awesome thing to have, because if Otrimi had vigilance, you can just keep attacking and having Otrimi up to block if you mutated on top of this. Vigilance is so underrated. Having the ability not to tap when you attack is just fantastic, because you can then attack and block the next turn. And Undying is a mechanic that needs to be revitalised. It needs to see a resurgence, because Undying is a fantastic ability, and there's so many broken things you can do with Undying. So I'm glad to see Vorapede in there. If Vorapede wasn't in here, I would definitely put him in, 100%. Next card, I believe, is a reprint from Lorwyn, and that is Widwen, the Biting Gale. So this is a legendary creature, fairy wizard, so this could be a commander in a separate deck if you wanted to. This costs 2 generic and Dimir, so blue and black, and it's a 3/3 flash flying. So a couple of good keywords there. And you can pay a Dimir and pay 1 life, return Woodwind the Biting Gale to its owner's hand. So as long as you've got the blue and the black there, and you've got the 1 life to spare, you can return the creature that Woodwen is referring to, whether that's Woodwen or the mutated creature on top, to its owner's hand. So it gives it a form of protection. Again, I'm not sure if this card will make the final cut. I'd rather have something in there that just gives straight up hexproof. But the flash and the flying is also quite good as well. So again, we'll see. Leave your comments in the section below as to what you're going to be taking out of this deck. Next card is a weird one, Yavimaya Dryad. So this costs 1 generic and 2 green for a creature Dryad, 2/1 with Forest Walk. And when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a forest card and put that onto the battlefield tapped under target player's control. If you do, shuffle your library. So in the grand scheme of things, I don't think this is worth having in there. So it's 2/1 Forest Walk. You're basically giving something unblockable. That's what the Yavimaya Dryad is doing. It's coming in, it's entering the battlefield, it's searching your own library for a forest, and then giving that forest to somebody else to have that creature, the Dryad, become unblockable. I don't see the benefit in that. I'd rather just have something in the deck that's straight up unblockable, rather than giving my opponent a forest. But again, if you're going to use this in the deck, by all means, tell me how it can work better, because I just don't feel like it has a place in there. You would normally just have something that's straight up unblockable. Is my thoughts. So that's probably one of the cards that will come out as soon as I get my hands on a deck and go through my own trade binder. Now the last of the creatures, and the bulk of this video is going to be creatures. The last creature in this deck could be the commander for this deck, but it also could be a commander for a Hydra deck, and that is Zaxara, the Exemplary. So this is a Sultai commander, so it costs 1 generic, black, green, blue for a legendary creature, Nightmare Hydra, and it has Death Touch, and it's a 2/3 when it comes in. So it doesn't have the standard pay X mana, that creature gets X +1/+1 counters. This is actually a creature that has a stat block for a Hydra, which is fairly unique, I believe. But yeah, a 2/3 Death Touch, and it can tap to add 2 mana of any 1 colour to your mana pool. So in this deck, it could add black, black, green, green, blue, blue, red, red, white, white. You wouldn't use red, red, or white, white though, 100%. And it says the tacked on text is whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, create a 0/0 green Hydra creature token, then put X +1/+1 counters on it. So it's a fantastic card for Hydra Tribal or big X spell Tribal, because every X spell will then convert into a creature. So all of your cards will then have double effects. So I think in this deck, obviously it's going to help the Hydras, because whenever you cast a Hydra, you're going to get the additional Hydra, which is good. But I think it's better utilised potentially in a Hydra X spell deck, whereas this is a Mutate deck. So we'll see. I mean, it's a fantastic card. It'll definitely be left in there for the first time I play. But yeah, I think it can be utilised as a commander in its own right for a big X spell Hydra deck. Zaxara the Exemplary. So that's all the creatures, 38 minutes into this video. That's all the creatures in the deck. Now everything else is instants, sorceries, enchantments, artifacts, lands. So I'm just going to blaze through these, because a lot of these are reprinted. So first of all, we'll start with the instants. We have a Beast Within. So not only do we have the creature earlier, what was it? Which one was it? I can't remember which one it was now. The one that Beast Within something. Not only do we have the creature that when it mutates, it beasts within something, we've also got Beast Within. So destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. So that's a really, really good piece of removal in green. Then we have Crowsand Grip. I don't actually have one of these, so it's good to have one of these in here. So it's 2 generic and 1 green. Split second. so it can't be responded to. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, so a nice piece of removal. And then Putrefy, destroy target artifact or creature, it can't be regenerated, so a nice little suite of removal there in the instant slot. And we also have an awesome card called Deadly Rollick. Now this is fantastic. This is ridiculous. So Deadly Rollick. This costs 3 generic and 1 black. However, if you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. So if Otrimi's out, he just shows up and exiles target creature. And Otrimi was disappointed at how quickly its new friend got tired and stopped playing. So, you know, if you stop playing with Otrimi and he's out, he's just going to exile you straight away, which is outrageous. So, an outrageous card, Deadly Rollick. It's going to see a lot of play, I believe, in black commander decks, because that is just exile target creature for 0. It's ridiculous. Moving on to the sorceries now. First of all, we have Animists Awakening. Interesting card. This is a sorcery. It costs green and X. Reveal the top X cards of your library. Put all land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And then if you have Spell Mastery, if there are 2 or more instant or sorcery cards in your graveyard, untap all of those lands. So that's a really, really good card for just outright ramping you late game. And it says any land as well. All land cards go onto the battlefield tapped and the rest on the bottom of the library in random order, with the potential upside of untapping all those lands that you've just searched for. So, fantastic card, Animists Awakening. Next card is Find Finality, so it's a split card from Ravnica. So you can play either one of these depending on which one you want to do. So Find is return up to 2 target creature cards from graveyard to your hand for black-green hybrid, or Finality, which is 4 generic and black-green. You may put up to 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature you control. Then all creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. So it's a good way of buffing your own creatures and then potentially doing a mini board wipe for those smaller, lesser creatures. So it's good against token decks and low to the ground decks, Finality. But I think that's probably going to be one of the cards that comes out, to be fair, that one. Next card is awesome, Gaze of Granite. It used to be in my Sisters of Stone Death deck, which is now disassembled, but again, there she is on the front there, Vraska. I think it's Vraska anyway, just destroying everything. Destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. So you pay black, green, and then X to destroy all permanents of X or less. So a great one-sided board wipe if you have high converted mana cost things out. Next card is Deadly Tempest. I think this is a reprint from a Commander product. Destroy all creatures. Each player loses life equals the number of creatures he or she controlled that were destroyed this way. This costs 6 to play. So not only does it destroy all the board state, but it also makes players lose life depending on how many creatures they have. So it can punish those low to the floor, go wide decks. So if this was played against my Locust God deck that had 20 Locusts out, I'd pretty much be dead after that. Another card, this is a new one, Dredge the Mire. So this costs 3 generic and 1 black for a sorcery. Each opponent chooses a creature card in their graveyard, put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. So that could be horrendous. If you're playing someone that has a yard full of haymaking creatures, they're going to have to choose one of those haymaking creatures to give to you. That's awesome. That's really, really good. I mean, they do have the choice of what creatures they give you, but any creature that's being utilised from a graveyard strategy, there's going to be some big ones in there that you're going to be able to hit, hopefully. So Dredge the Mire is a good card. Not sure whether it really fits into the deck, but, you know, nice card nonetheless. I'm sure we'll see some utilisation in the future. Next card is a nice little ramp spell, Kodama's Reach. Costs 2 generic and 1 green. Search library for its 2 basic lands. Reveal them. Put 1 to the battlefield tap, 1 to your hand. Shuffle your library. It's a green staple. I'm not going to bother speaking any more about it. Another card draw spell, Mind Spring, which then works with the Hydra commander. Mind Spring costs 2 blues and X. Draw X cards. So if you had Zaxra out on the field, you're going to create a Hydra of that X value as well. So again, other cards that could be utilised in another deck, maybe. And then we got Migration Path, a great new explosive vegetation for this set. This costs 3 generic and 1 green. Search library for 2 basic lands, put them onto battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. So this is going to be a green staple, 100%. If explosive vegetation is a green staple, this has more of a case study to be explosive vegetation's replacement as well, because it has cycling. So you can get rid of it late game if you don't need the lands to draw a card. So fantastic addition, Migration Path. Then we have another sorcery, Profane Command. So this is a sorcery where you get to choose 2 modes. It costs black, black, and X. So you can have target player lose X life. Return target creature card with converted mana cost X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Target creature gets minus X until end of turn. Or up to X target creatures gain fear until end of turn. So you can choose 2 of those. That's really good card for the fact that it has a lot of utility attached to it. A lot of the command cards like Primal Command, Profane Command, Incendiary Command, I think that's one of them. All those command cards are very good, and they're always worth a consider when you build the deck because it has so much utilization behind it. And then we have a big X spell in Villainous Wealth. So again, this is an awesome card which would fit into a Zaxxora deck because it's an X spell. But yeah, Soul Tie, black, green and blue and X. Target opponent exiles the top X card of his or her library. You may cast any number of non-land cards with converted mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. So just a great way of just gaining loads of cards from your opponent's deck. Really good. So then we have some enchantments. So in the deck there are 3 impetus spells. So I'll display all of these at once because these are a massive talking point. I mean, Command Zone, for instance, said that they'd probably take all of these impetus spells out. I mean, I'm going to use them in another deck for sure. I'm going to be using them in my Thantis, the Warweaver deck. These are what they are. So you got, first of all, you got Parasitic Impetus. So this is 2 generic and a black for an enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded. So goaded means that obviously you're going to use this on someone else's creature, so they can't attack you, but they can attack someone else for more damage because it's +2/+2. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, its controller loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So it's a good way of gaining life, but also removing a creature in a sense where it can't attack you. I mean, they're good. They're good removal spells because not only do they remove the creature from attacking you, they pump that creature up to potentially attack somebody else, and they also have a benefit at the bottom. So I'm not sure whether it would be worth removing these or not. They are very good removal spells. Next one is Predatory Impetus. This is 4 generic and a green for exactly the same thing. Enchant creature. This one gives it +3/+3. Must be blocked if able, and is goaded. So that's another good way of pumping up the opponent's creature, making it attack other players' creatures, and it must be blocked as well, so it could get rid of problematic pieces on other board states. But again, pretty good. And then we have Psychic Impetus. This is 2 generic and a blue. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded, and whenever the enchanted creature attacks, you scry 2. So again, another way of gaining some insight into your deck and forcing that creature to attack another player. So I think the impetus cards, looking at them now again in more detail, are awesome. I think they're really good. It's a way of removal, but also a way of using that removal to attack your opponents and gain benefits every time they attack. So awesome. Now we're going into the artifacts of the deck, and again, you probably would have seen a lot of these. I think there's 2 that are new, so I'll go over the ones that are reprinted. Arcane Signet, so that was originally part of the Throne of Eldraine Brawl decks. 2-drop artifact, tapped, add 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. So in this deck it will be green, blue or black because it's Soul Tie. Then we have a Lifecrafter's Beech Tree, or Bestry, basically a Pokedex, costs 3 to drop. At the beginning of your upkeep you scry 1, so a nice little bit of insight on the artifact, and then whenever you cast a creature spell you may pay green. If you do, draw a card. So again, you're going to be casting a lot of creatures whether they're mutated or not, so if you want to pay the extra green you get to draw another card. Again, a great bit of card draw for not only mono green but any deck that plays a lot of creatures. And then we have a Soul Ring, of course, staple in all the C20 products. Pay 1 to play it, tap for 2. You know what that does. Two artifacts that are new in these Ikoria sets are, the first one is Bonder's Ornament. So Bonder's Ornament is a 3-drop artifact, and it taps to add 1 mana of any colour, so that could be useful. But then it also has an activated ability. It says pay 4 and tap it. Each player who controls a permanent named Bonder's Ornament also draws a card. So you could, if your playgroup is known to play with Bonder's Ornaments, you're going to be drawing quite a lot of cards, or you're going to be forcing your opponents to draw quite a lot of cards. So it's an interesting one. It could be used, depending on the meta that you're in, it could be useful, it could be complete and utter misfire, but I don't think it really belongs in this deck. I'll probably put Cultivate or Kodama's Reach, not Kodama's Reach, Cultivate or some other form of ramp in the deck, rather than having an artifact that will allow my other teammates, my other players to draw cards. I don't think that's really that good. But prove me wrong. You know, leave a comment if you're going to be using the Bonder's Ornament, definitely. And the other card, which is absolutely ridiculous, is this one, Manascape Refractor. This is an artifact that costs 3 to play, and enters the battlefield tapped. And Mana Escape Refractor has all activated abilities of all lands on the battlefield. So my understanding of this is that it can tap for any mana that any other land can tap for. So I believe tapping a land is an activated ability. I could be completely wrong, but I remember Star City Games speaking about this, and I think one of the comments said that it can be tapped for whatever land it's imitating. And it also says you may spend mana as though it were any mana of any colour to pay for the activation costs of Manascape's Refractor's abilities. So again, that's really, really good. So it could turn into a Cabal Coffers, it could turn into a Gaia's Cradle, it could turn into a Strip Mine. It can change into any of those ridiculously expensive lands that you don't have. So Manascape can turn into any of those, because a lot of those ridiculous lands are the ones that have activated abilities, like Cabal Coffers and Gaia's Cradle and Strip Mine, Wasteland, all that sort of stuff. So you can imitate other people's ridiculous land bases. So that's definitely going to be going in there, or staying in there, because a lot of my playgroup have ridiculous lands, ridiculous mana bases. And then going on to lands, we've got the basics in the deck. It's very, very foresty. So you're going to have 11 forests in the deck, you're going to have 5 swamps in the deck, and you're going to have 2 islands in the deck. So that's the basics that you're going to get. And the land base, you're going to have a Blighted Woodland. Taps to add 1 colourless mana, but then you can sacrifice it and pay the mana to Explosive Veg, basically. Command Tower, taps to add black, blue or green, because it's in your commander's colour. Dark Water Catacombs, nice little card, basically a Dimir Signet, sorry. Dimir Aqueduct, one of the bounce lands. It gives you black and blue, but you need to return a land to your hand when you play it, enters tapped. Dismal Backwater, black and blue, when it enters, gain 1 life, enters tapped. Endless Sands, not sure why this is in here, so it adds 1 colourless mana, but then you can exile type creature you control for 2 and tapping. Then you can pay 4 and tap, sacrifice it to return each creature card exiled with Endless Sands to the battlefield under its owner's control. So if they have enter the battlefield effects, that could be very, very good, but I'm not sure whether that's the right card for this deck or not, but I could be wrong. Then we've got an Exotic Orchard, which most of the time taps to add 1 mana of any colour, because you're playing hopefully a 4-player commander game with loads of different decks, and it says add 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls could produce. So hopefully that'll give you most of your mana fix the entire time. Then we have a Golgoroth Farm, another bounce land which adds black and green, enters tapped, and then when it enters you return a land you control to your own hand, to its owner's hand. Jungle Hollow, taps to add black or green, enters tapped, when it enters you gain a life. Llanowar Wastes, good little card, taps to add colourless, and then it can also tap to add black or green, but if you do that it does 1 damage to you. Mortuary Mire, I don't know why this is in there, enters tapped, when it enters the battlefield you may put target creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. So again, it's a little bit of recursion, I guess, but you have that on the commander anyway, so I don't think that will make the cut, that'll probably just turn into something else. Myriad Landscape, enters tapped, adds 1 colourless to your mana pool, and then you can pay 2 and sacrifice it to search your library for 2 basic lands that share a land type and put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So again, it's a good way of fixing your mana in Myriad Landscape. Then you've got Opulent Palace, which is basically a command tower but enters tapped, so it adds 4 black, green or blue. Then you have Rogue's Passage, which is a good staple in Commander because it gives any target creature can't be blocked this turn. That can be used on your creatures, it can be used on anyone's creatures, so a good little trickery card there. Then you've got Simic Growth Chamber, one of the bounce lands again, enters tapped, return lands you control to its owner's hand, taps add green and blue afterwards. Soaring Seacliff, it's a land that enters tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, target creature gains flying until end of turn. So I don't know why that's in there. I don't have a clue why that's in there. Taps to add blue, so that'll probably come out. Sunken Hollow, good little card. Island Swamp, enters battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands. So hopefully most of the time that will just come straight in and tap for black or blue if needed. Then you've got a standard Temple of the False God in there. Taps to add 2 colourless mana. Activate the ability only if you control 5 or more lands. And then you've got a Thornwood Falls, which taps for green and blue. It does enter tapped and it gains you 1 life. I forgot to mention as well, we do have a Planeswalker in the deck, and that is Nissa, Steward of Elements. Again, I'm not sure if she really fits into here. She's, again, an X spell, so you could run her in a Zaxxora Hydra X spell deck. But again, a reprint from Amonkhet. So it's good to see because we haven't had any other reprints for Nissa. Green Blue X and comes in with X loyalty counters depending on the amount that you pay. +2 is Scry 2, so again good for insight. She has a 0 ability. Look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card or a creature card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of loyalty counters on Nissa, put that card onto the battlefield, or you may put that card onto the battlefield. So you want to be using her Scry ability to rearrange the card so you can use the 0 ability next turn, so you can get a free activation. And of course there is a -6 if you do need it, where you can untap up to 2 target lands you control. They become 5/5 elemental creatures with flying and haste, which are still lands. So you probably never want to use the -6, you want to use the value from this card. But yeah, I forgot to mention that there is a Planeswalker in here as well. Whether it will stay or not, I don't really know. But I'm really looking forward to the deck. I'm really looking forward to upgrading it and changing some things out of there, and maybe building another Hydra deck on the side off of the cards that I don't use in here, because there's a lot of X spells, a lot of Hydras in here that don't really benefit from Otrimi's Mutate ability. But yeah, it's going to be an awesome deck. Can't wait to pilot it. Awesome mechanic. If you like the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe. Make sure you hit the little bell notification. If you want to buy any of these cards, any of these products, go and check out and if you're in the UK that is, go and check out Magic Madhouse, because they do any sort of Magic cards, singles, sealed products, booster packs, booster boxes, Warhammer, Dungeons and Dragons, all sorts. Go and check out our affiliate link if you want to buy any geeky content. Also, I want to have a quick shout out to a channel that I just discovered on YouTube and inspired me to do the same thing, basically. So hopefully we can do a collaboration in the future, because they're a bunch of lovely ladies by the sounds of it. And this is, the channel is Tap That MTG. So 138 subscribers. They started in April 2019. So go and have a look at them. They went into a deep dive of the Enhanced Evolution, which I've just done, basically, and they inspired me to do so. Just inspired me to have a look at the deck in loads of detail, and as a result, I really can't wait to play it. But yeah, go and check out their channel. Hopefully, we'll have a collab with them in the future. I have asked them if they want to collab with us, so hopefully they say yes. They look like they're in isolation like us and doing some stuff over the internet. So yeah, could be good. Go and check it out. But thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.